The story unfolds around Dot, a high school girl burdened by both deafness and muteness. Her condition renders her almost invisible to those around her, forcing her into solitude. She drifts through the school halls unnoticed, a ghost among her peers. Recently, Dot suffered a devastating loss. Her father, the only family she had, passed away. Now, she resides with her godmother's family, though she feels like an unwelcome guest. Her new god-sister, Nina, harbors an unexplainable resentment toward Dot. At school, Dot is an outsider, the target of whispered mockery, while Nina reigns among the popular crowd. One day, as Dot moves through the hallway, Nina and her clique spot her. Seizing the opportunity, they cruelly mock her silence, laughing at her inability to respond. A school counselor witnesses the bullying and extends a hand, offering Dot a safe space to eat lunch away from her tormentors. However, Dot declines, retreating to the only place she feels secure, the solitude of a bathroom stall. Here, she finds a fleeting sense of peace, away from prying eyes and judgment. But her sanctuary is short-lived. Nina barges in, dragging her out with annoyance, making it clear it's time to return home. Back at the house, Olivia, Nina's mother, makes an effort to encourage kindness, urging Nina to be more accepting of Dot. She reminds her daughter of the hardships Dot has endured, but Nina remains indifferent. She never asked for Dot to be part of their lives and sees no reason to make her feel at home. That evening, when Nina's father, Paul, returns home, he finds Olivia unconscious in the living room. Her struggles with alcoholism and depression cast a dark shadow over the family, amplifying the unease within the household, especially with Dot's presence adding another layer of tension. After dinner, Paul gently helps Olivia to bed, her medication leaving her disoriented. As he returns to the dining room, he senses the thick, uncomfortable silence between the girls. In an attempt to ease the atmosphere, he suggests learning basic sign language to communicate better with Dot. But before he can continue, Nina scoffs, rolls her eyes, and abruptly leaves the room. The next day at school, Nina and her friends lounge in their usual spot at lunch, engaging in gossip. Her friend Michelle playfully teases Nina about her love life, pointing out that at 17, she's still a virgin. She jokes that Nina could have any boy she wanted but never seems to take anyone seriously. Nina brushes off the comment, keeping her real thoughts hidden. Meanwhile, Dot wanders the empty school hallways, drawn toward the quiet solace of the music room. Seeing the piano, she feels a familiar pull. She once played back when she could still hear, and despite the silence in her world, her fingers glide across the keys, producing a melody of practiced elegance. Connor, one of the school's golden boys, happens to pass by and stops, mesmerized by Dot's playing. He watches her, captivated by the grace with which she moves. Just as he lingers too long, his friend calls him back to reality, and he reluctantly leaves. Later that day, Dot crosses paths with Nina in the school bathroom. She tries to keep to herself, but Nina insists on putting lipstick on her. For a brief moment, Dot wonders if this is a gesture of connection, but when she looks in the mirror, she sees the lipstick smeared deliberately across her mouth, a cruel joke. Any fleeting hope of bonding shatters. That night, Dot lies awake, memories of her father filling her mind. Overwhelmed by loneliness, she steps outside for air. As she wanders the hall, she notices Nina's bedroom door slightly ajar. Peeking inside, what she sees sends a jolt of horror through her. Nina and Paul, entangled in a moment that should never be. Heart racing, she retreats, drowning in confusion and fear. The following evening at dinner, Nina nonchalantly asks her parents if she can stay over at Michelle's. Paul refuses, but Olivia, attempting to support Nina, gives her approval. Frustrated, Nina subtly runs her foot along Paul's leg beneath the table, a silent persuasion. Paul stiffens but says nothing, taking his silence as permission. She smirks and calls Michelle to finalize her plans. Later, Paul confronts Olivia about undermining him. Tensions flare before he storms off. That night, when Olivia is alone, Dot hands her a note, asking if she can go to the movies. Paul offers to drive her, and Dot, sensing an unspoken tension, hesitantly agrees. At the theater, Dot sits alone, distanced from Nina and her friends, who occupy the middle row. Connor notices her solitude and considers approaching her, but his friends dissuade him. For a fleeting moment, Nina's gaze lingers on Dot, an unfamiliar pang of sympathy surfacing, but she quickly masks it. Experimentally, she covers her ears, attempting to imagine Dot's silent world. When she realizes Dot is watching her, embarrassment washes over her, and she quickly drops the act. That night, Dot's rest is disturbed by the sound of footsteps. Pretending to sleep, she senses Paul's presence in her room. He strokes her hair, whispering self-loathing words, calling himself sick. It becomes chillingly clear taking Dot in was his desperate attempt to keep himself away from Nina, but it has done nothing to curb his dark compulsions. The next day, left alone at home, Dot sits at the piano, letting music fill the void. Unbeknownst to her, Nina has come home early and watches from the doorway. Suddenly, a string snaps, causing Dot to curse under her breath a rare slip. Nina freezes. Could Dot hear all along? Rather than confronting her, she pretends she just arrived and lets the revelation simmer in her mind. At school, Nina unexpectedly joins Dot for lunch. She speaks with unsettling honesty, detailing her twisted experiences with Paul, watching for Dot's reaction. Dot remains impassive, refusing to be baited, but Nina leaves her with a cryptic warning as she plans to end Paul's reign of control. That night, Dot plays the piano again, seeking solace. When Connor appears, he invites her out under the guise of working on a school project. Dot surprises him by already having it completed, throwing him off guard. As the evening unfolds, Paul, unaware of what's brewing, gifts Nina a new handbag, his excuse to get close, but she's done playing along. Luring him in, she feigns affection, then, in a flash, seizes a hot iron, ready to burn him. Just as she's about to strike, Dot arrives home, breaking the tension. Thinking quickly, Nina blurts out that she's pregnant. Paul is stunned. She demands $1,000, claiming she needs to handle it. The weight of her words sends Paul into a spiral of unease. The following day, Nina reveals to Dot she lied. There's no pregnancy. She only wants the money to escape. That night, as Paul searches for Nina, he stumbles upon a crucial detail: her tampons. The truth clicks. Enraged, he confronts her, demanding answers. When she can't fabricate a lie fast enough, his anger turns violent. Olivia hears but remains frozen, but Dot isn't. She rips a wire from the piano and storms in, wrapping it around Paul's neck, her voice cutting through the chaos. Leave her alone. In moments, Paul collapses, lifeless. As sirens flash outside, Olivia takes the blame, quietly confessing. As she's led away in cuffs, she offers Nina a heartfelt apology, and not just for that night, but for years of neglect. As the house falls silent, Dot and Nina stand side by side, forever changed.